all the way down the row next to the person in front of you. I'll unpack you. We can do that when we can see how many people got in the row. Paul, send me one more person. Right here. Please don't talk. If we see you chatting, then you will be taking a fast exit from the exam. When you're placed in a row, if you can dash down to the end of the row, pack the row as quickly as you can. Okay, in just a moment, I'm going to get you started. I'm going to begin with some general announcements that affect everybody. First of all, would you please be very sure that you have the correct form of your name? At this point in the semester, your GSIs don't know whether you are Henry Patrick or Patrick Henry. Please do it in registrar's form of your name with your family name coming first. Second, as I told you, we hand in stuff by section number. Be very sure that you know what your section number is. Understandably, you may not exactly remember the who what, but you can see your GSI's name, the room number, and the date and time. So there's a little table you can figure out your section number from there. You will not know the version of the exam until you open the exam. The version number is the last question, question 37. I would like you now to open the exam, and I suggest that you go ahead and fill in question 37 now. That's one answer that at least you know that you got right. Next thing. We do not answer any questions about the exam. What the meaning of is. Of course, if you have 2 page 4s and no page 5, we'd like to know about that. Just put your hand up in the air. But if you're not really sure what the question means, that's the purpose of the exam. We ask the questions, not you. Right? When you finish, you can come up front. You will find envelopes with the sections 101 on that side, 101A through 114D. Find your section, then make sure that you put your exam in on the version number ABCD. Your exam will get a higher score if it is scored on the key that the exam that you took. You're going to take the question paper with you. At the back of the room, there will be syllabuses by the 2 exit signs there for the module 2. That's the most efficient way that we have for distributing the next syllabus. So after you've dropped off stuff, take your question paper with you and exit from the back of the room, okay? All right, if anybody's short a pencil or a Scantron, put their hand in the air and one of the assistants will come around to you. Other than that, off you go.
So we will start with answers to some of your questions that have happened since the last lecture. And the most frequent question is some variant of this, which is, how am I supposed to study this stuff? What am I supposed to get out of it, etc.? And that's what your study questions are for. And they are so that if you contemplate the study questions and think about them, that's what we think, anyway, is going to answer that question. And they're posted weekly on the course website, which is on Blackboard. There are also outlines of each lecture on Blackboard. So if you don't get something scribbled down, there it is. And discussion sections help a great deal because you will discover when you talk about this, you learn. Okay, next question related. What am I supposed to do with those weekly contemplations, right? Now, okay, you think it over. Or, I just thought of this, you download it right into your mind. Then, well, when I say forget it, what I really mean is you let it go into whatever it is you think you have there. If you think you have an unconscious, okay, into the unconscious. If you think you have a long-term memory store, that's where it goes. If you think you have neural networks. And when the time is right, it's when you put it in there, it gets into your task-dependent toolbar. And when a situation comes up where you need it, you've got in there, is this, really? Or fight procrastination, or any of the others, it will just pop into your mind thus. Okay, now a content question. This is clever. This person, go to law school. If there is such a thing as momentary concentration, wouldn't attention deficit disorder people also have it? And as we know, they can't concentrate, therefore, well, what makes you think that they don't? One of the things that we will all discover when doing mindfulness meditation for a little bit is that you have, an inner attention deficit. You may already have discovered it. An inner bipolar, moods go, and the inner saint, and that is all the good things are also in your mind or your karmic stream or whatever it is, everything. And okay, you include with friendliness, Walt Whitman's "I contain multitudes," mindfulness. You will discover that you do, and that will have some very nice effects, maybe. Okay, today begins the formal what mindfulness discovers. The first category, as you've already gotten gleanings of, is the 3 marks of existence. We've already discussed impermanence more than you might like, because that impermanence is so general that it's not even a Buddhist thing. Everyone who kind of settles down and says, all right, now what's going on in my mind? How do I know things? Greek philosophers, Sanskrit philosophers. There's an old book by an anthropologist that you can tell from the title how old it is. Primitive man, as a philosopher, discovers that basically anyone who looks will discover the same kind of radical impermanence that you may be discovering in mindfulness. But this is, the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room that we don't talk about. It's kind of, oh yeah, impermanence. Well, okay, we'll talk about what structures there are that let us know things. Buddhism takes it seriously. And once you take it seriously, you have another problem. Who is observing the impermanence? Right? Who's the me? I mean, if it's, one thing, another thing, how do I know? Okay, so today we're going to talk about the second mark of existence, which is, and by marks of existence, this means these very general things about your experience that you discover, the issue of egolessness or no self, or not the sort of self that we assume if this feeling that myself is some kind of thing. All right. Okay, think of this as an opportunity to question and search for this self, which is very important to us. I mean, we're really organized around this thing, self. And to investigate this with mindfulness. Okay. Again, this is not, if you start looking at these things, you discover them Buddhist, not Buddhist. The British empiricist philosopher, David Hume, who was very good at mindfulness, without knowing it, says, for my part, when I enter most intimately, he even gets that, into what I call myself, I always stumble on some particular perception or other of heat or cold, right? What's the temperature like today? Light or shade, love or hatred, pain or pleasure, etc. I never can catch myself at any time without a perception, and never can observe anything but the perception. It's a great one to try. Try and catch myself. Try and catch the me having the perception. Now, he didn't know what to do with that. And what he did with it, according to his biography, is he said the 19th century equivalent of whatever, and he went and played a game of backgammon. So when you look, the claim is you don't find it. There isn't a landing platform for your perceptions and thoughts. That's another way of talking about it. Now, this is not, you may be saying, but it's really not such a weird idea. And my claim is Western psychology doesn't have any real self. We just don't know it. So what you have is all this kind of stuff, self, concept, schemas, theories, constructions, ideals, relational selves, narrative selves, the looking glass self imported from sociology, these models with supervisory structures that are the self, in cognitive science, the self, and everything else cognitive for some folks is a mere epiphenomena that has no causal whatever, and so on. But some psychologists are kind of feeling around with all of this, and I particularly recommend the paper in your reader, Ulrich Neisser's 5 Kinds of Self-Knowledge, which is at the end of the readings for this topic. It got misplaced in the reader for some odd reason, but it's not far away. It's kind of was a refugee into a neighboring topic, and Linda's page numbering will help you find it. It's good to contemplate how his categories fit with the ones you're about to learn. Okay, so what psychologists really haven't grasped, even Neisser, is how central and important the self is to us, as the rest of today will try, and Wednesday and next Monday will show you, perhaps, and how it's not there. That is, the particular it that one has a feeling for is not the it that's there. Okay, so why do we think, feel, and act on the notion of having a self? Okay, what now we get some heavy content categories, which some of you may be relieved to be getting, because these are going to be their words and titles that are addressing your cognitive mind, the rational mind, and then they can sit there and anchor the ideas and extend their arrows and pseudopods into your experience. And there are these 5, and I'm going to go through each of them in order. So form is the first one. And form refers to the body and the environment, okay? What we call the material world. And notice, remember, you had your 4 bases of mindfulness, and they're going to be repeated in a different way here, because the things that help you be mindful is what you've got, right? And they're saying, okay, this is what you've got, your body and the environment. And you'll see how the mental joins in with this. In experience, what you have are, for the body and the mind, your 6 senses, the objects of the senses, and the relationship between the sense and the object, and we'll see how that works. Okay, what's the first sense, right? Vision, your eye. Okay, now it says, well, actually, let's do it before we look at what it says. Okay, here's something to look at. It's a big, empty square. So just look at it. So isn't there a sense that there's a you, and you're over there? You're located over there, right? And this is located over here. And you're right, by the way, because you have your parietal lobes and everything's functioning just fine. And there's a relationship between you and this. You're seeing it. Yes? So you have an organ, and we know what the organ is. It's this thing in your head, the eye. We have a whole chunk of our multi-department thing, vision science, that examines the eye and how it's hooked up to the brain. You have an object, namely the visual world, what you see, and the relationship is that you're seeing. Okay, now, close your eyes and listen. Audition. Other people in the department studied that. By the way, the emotion you just experienced was one of the 6 basic emotions, surprise. And a typical response to a harmless surprise is laughter. Just demonstrated the truth of our psychology. Okay, now, take a hand and touch the desk in front of you. Right? Same kind of thing. Now, there's you, and there's this thing you're touching, just as there was you and the thing you're seeing, and you and the thing you're hearing. You were not that noise. You're not the desk. Even now, take one hand and touch the other hand. Gets more interesting. Okay, this is your body, right? But there's a you, and there's the toucher, and there's the touch. So this all works that way. So the ear, the organ, sound, hearing, touch, taste, smell, it all works the same way if you examine it. Namely, there's a something,